Good afternoon, everybody. We are here waiting a few seconds to start. We will be in mute until is 5 p.m. Good afternoon, Cynthia. So happy to have you here today. We will be sharing for a few minutes our time in this live. Some people will be joining us. And before we start, I would love to give you a few seconds just to introduce yourself to the community that is watching us today.
Well, Juliana, thank you so much. It's such an honor and privilege to be here today. First and foremost, Juliana, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for actually producing positive content. In this time right now, so many people are afraid and feeling anxiety and just really unsettled. So the fact that you're producing positive content to help people, I just want to say thank you for that. And thank you for having me. So to introduce myself, my name is Cynthia Ruiz. I am an author, I'm a professor, I'm a leadership expert. I'm an executive coach. I am one of the co-founders of the Yo También Healing Movement. I'm the president of the city's pension board. And as you can see, I wear many hats. But first and foremost, I'm a woman, and I'm also a mother. And I say that I'm a mother, I say that last, not because that's my least important role. I think if anything, that's probably been my most important role in life. But my son is at the point where he's married and on his own. So at this point, I'm more of a support staff to him than anything. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. And I'm just honored to be here today.
Always a pleasure to have this time to talk to you. And I decided to call this talk show Woman Heal the World. And we talk about how Cynthia comes from a blended culture, how you come from Latin community, but also from Cherokee community. And I would love to ask to you, what is that meaning of healing to you?
Well, first and foremost, especially from my Native American side, so I'm Cherokee, and Cherokees are the largest tribe in the United States. I'm a registered citizen in the Cherokee Nation. And it's really interesting because from my Cherokee side, the Cherokees, before the Europeans came to the United States, were a matriarchal society. So what did that mean as a matriarchal society? Is that the women were in charge. The women were in charge, they controlled the economy, they controlled the agricultural piece, and the men were the ones that would go out and hunt. So women played a very important role in the Cherokee society. And it's really interesting because with the Cherokees, the first and foremost, what we believe in is living in harmony and balance. So living in harmony and balance, not only with each other, the men and the women, but living in harmony and balance with Mother Nature, with Mother Earth. And I think right now, the world is so out of balance. So my perception is that the universe gave us everybody a timeout and said, okay, take some time and really think what's important to you. And for me, part of this has been understanding the value of women. Because if you look at the first responders or healthcare providers that are out there on the front lines each and every day, in the United States, 70% of our healthcare providers, healthcare professionals are women. Yet on the other end of that, right now, when everybody is staying at home and quarantining in their homes, the women played significant role in the healing of families and keeping the families together and homeschooling the kids. These kids are not in school right now. So women on both ends, whether or not you're on the front lines of healthcare or at home, were really carrying a lot of, I don't want to say burden because it's not a burden, a lot of the responsibility through this crisis. And so what I think is important for women, we need to make sure when we talk about healing is that we're participating in self-care, that we're really focusing on ourselves to make sure that we're staying healthy. Because many times as women, what we do is we give. We give to our families, we give to the community, we give to everybody else, but we forget about ourselves. So what that looks like to me in terms of women healing and healing ourselves and self-care is really looking at our lives from mind, body, spirit. Now, when you look at mind, body, spirit, so as women, what are we doing to fill our minds in a positive way? So what I do is I limit my content. I only watch the news for little bits and pieces. I don't sit in front of the TV all day getting the news because then you're on overload with all the negativity. I also take advantage of this time and I'm not only am I participating in giving workshops, but I'm also participating as a student in workshops. So I'm feeding my mind. The body piece of it, I'm making sure that I'm eating healthy. I have to say, I've never cooked so much in my life. So I'm cooking, but I can control what I'm eating. So I'm eating healthy. I continue to exercise every day. I make sure that I get at least 45 minutes of exercise to keep my body healthy. I also supplement it with a lot of essential oils and natural medicines. And the spirit part, I really do three things to make sure that I'm feeding my spirit and keeping my spirit healthy. First thing I do when I wake up every single morning is I do my gratitude list. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for just to wake up. I'm grateful to have a roof over my head. I'm grateful for so many things. So after my gratitude list, throughout the day, I pray and I meditate. And having those three pieces in combination is what keeps me healthy and healed. Because if, like I said, as women, if we don't participate in that self care, we're not going to be able to help others heal.
And at the beginning, we were talking also about how in the Cherokee tradition we have a matriarchal way of living. There are many, many people, and in this experience also that you have with Yo También healing, that already experience a lot of trauma in their life. And this moment, this special moment of quarantine, may be very difficult for a person who experienced a past trauma. What would you like to say to these people today?
Well, what I would like to say is, first of all, you're not alone. Most people in life have experienced some type of trauma. I personally experienced sexual trauma, but as we are quarantined, use this time for self reflection and a time that you could heal yourself. So I've developed 5 steps to healing from sexual trauma. And this is just based on my experience, although I do have a master's degree in counseling. It's not scientific, but it's what I experience and what I share. And I tell people, first of all, admit that the trauma happened. Say it out loud, because many times with trauma, whether it be sexual trauma or anything else, we bury it. Our self-defense mechanism is to bury it. So acknowledge that it happened. The second thing is working on forgiveness, forgiving the person that caused the trauma. The third part is really forgiving yourself, because many times we carry responsibility for the trauma. We carry shame and guilt. And then the fourth thing is releasing the experience. And what I mean by that is really writing down the experience, because what happens in our body is the emotions carry energy. So this energy gets stuck in our body and it needs to be released. So what I recommend to people is they write down, they journal all their memories and their thoughts about the experience. And then the release part comes in the way I release things. I burn the paper that I write it on. I use a white candle to represent purity and literally burn it so I see it go up in smoke. Now, for people that have smoke detectors and can't burn it, you can tear up the paper, you can cut it up, you can shred it, but it's that physical part of releasing that experience. And number 5 is really self-acceptance and understanding that you're lovable, you're worthy of love, you're worthy of having a good life. And really it's that self-love that you know that you're perfect just the way you are, and that experience that you had does not define you as a person. Now, one thing I tell people is that these steps are not linear. You may forgive yourself and then have to go back and release the experience again. And healing for anyone, women or men, is not a one size fits all. But it's the important thing is you're taking the first step. So now that we have a lot of time on our hands because we're quarantined, it's do self-reflection and release whatever is no longer working in your life. And it's really about healing your life, mind, body, spirit, so you can be a better person to be of service to others.
I I always like to take a little moment to that first step that you were proposing. Speak out. Talk about what happened to you. That first step requires a lot of courage because we never know how the person is going to react or the people that we love around us. How are they going to judge us? So there is a little bit of scare or people being afraid of what they are going to say. How did you manage to say, okay, I'm just going to speak out?
So fear is a very powerful emotion. And we carry around a lot of fear. A lot of people are operating in fear right now through this crisis. But what you have to look at, the opposite of fear is trust. And so it's about bringing more trust into your life. Now, this could be trust for yourself. I use the term creator and God. Doesn't matter what term you use, the universal consciousness. It's about trusting in a power that's higher than us, knowing that it's going to be okay. And one clarification I want to make, when I talk about forgiving the other person, it doesn't necessarily mean that you even have to talk to that person. You know, you can write down, I forgive you, but it doesn't mean that you have to communicate with that person. So, but forgiveness is such a powerful tool that we have, because carrying around all this trauma, it only hurts you. It doesn't even hurt the other person because they're not even probably thinking about it. Because a lot of people that have experienced trauma, whether it be sexual trauma or physical abuse or whatever it is, they carry that around for many, many years. They bury it, they carry it around. So it almost gives you a sense of freedom when you take this first step and admit it happened and start that door of release.
And and you just say something that really also like resonates a lot with me, and it's how the first person that you need to forgive is also yourself. We end up like around our thoughts all the day. All the day we are lost in the what if not, what if maybe. And then we start punishing and judging ourselves so hard that we need to kind of step a little bit away and say, wow, all these thoughts that are coming out of my experience, I am able to see them. I am able to at least talk about them inside of me. So this is already a big step that we are doing. But after that step of being able to see our own thoughts, then we may be able to say, okay, I see these thoughts as a baby at this moment. And let me experience, how am I going to give some love to them? How am I going to feel that they are not alone? When the emotions are too hard inside, sometimes it helps for me to see them as a little baby. When that little baby is screaming, what do we say to this little baby? Oh, come on, I have this for you. We give them a toy, and then the little baby totally forget about screaming or crying and goes somewhere else. What other type of stories or experiences you have to deal in order for the people to learn how to deal with that first like story that comes out of us when we are operating in fear, as you were saying?
Well, it's just, what I have people do is when it's part of writing down the experience, and when you release it, I say, I release you you no longer have power over me. And what I'm talking about is releasing the experience so it doesn't have power over you. Because what happens many times is when we do bury these experiences, whatever they are, and that we need to heal from, what ends up happening is that we hold on to them, and it shows up in our life. It shows up in our life in different ways. It may be in your current relationship, it may be in your relationships with your friends or families, but it's still there. Some people, to dull the pain, maybe they turn to an addiction. They get addicted to sex. They get addicted to drugs, alcohol, gambling, because they're trying to fill that void. But until you go through the steps, and I'm not saying it's easy to go through these steps, I'm not saying it's joyful, but once you work through the steps and you heal, once you get to the other side of it, you realize that life is beautiful, that life is good. And one point that you touched on is I think it's also we want to show, and I know this is difficult for a lot of people, but show compassion to the people that cause the trauma. Because statistically, people that are abusers, they have been abused themselves. Now, I'm not defending anybody's bad behavior, and I'm certainly not justifying it. But when we launched the Yo También healing movement, what we did is, and you were there, and thank you for your support, Juliana. She did a beautiful meditation. We prayed for everybody in the Latino community, but then what we also prayed for is anybody that experienced sexual trauma and people that caused the trauma. Now, to me, that's the ultimate when you can show compassion to the people, the person that caused the trauma. And that's probably one of the hardest things because people are angry, they're mad, they want justice, they want all these things, but you have to kind of like detach yourself from those emotions and realize that's a person that was in pain. That person was hurting too. You know, people that are in pain cause pain. And again, I'm not justifying anything, but if we as women show more compassion in this world, because we're the compassionate ones, we can help that compassion spread and create a more loving, positive world.
And and as you were saying, is not only then about healing ourselves, but sometimes part of seeing from the distance the pain, it's to sort of feel the pain in the other one. Many times when we are under a difficulty, we go too much inwards. Why did this happen to me? And we think that this only happens to me. But it may be possible that the other person also had a most traumatic or difficult experience. And of course, as you say, this is not something to say, okay, the other person doesn't need to take responsibility on this. But it's a way to kind of start blooming a little bit that compassion, that love for the people around us. Because many times when we live those traumatic experiences, we not only think that the world is around us or about us, but we also kind of bring ourselves to kind of a cave. So we go too much inwards and we don't want to know anything about the world. So at the moment that we maybe start having the possibility of thinking about the pain of the others, wow, we may be able to start opening up at the beginning to ourselves. And little by little, as you were saying as well, we may gain trust to see the world outside. So now that we are talking about this trust, about this love and developing compassion, I want to propose a short 3 minutes meditation for us to practice together. And after this meditation, there is the chat in YouTube. And anyone who has a question for us, we will be happy to be sharing another few minutes with you. And first of all, thank you to every person who is taking this opportunity to watch this live. Thank you as well for all of you who are going to be watching the replay. Thank you for Cynthia to giving this space, to sharing your experience. Because this is the idea. Women heal the world. It's not only about what we say, it's about how we gather in love. And now we are using social media to gather in a way that we can spread the love. So I'm going to close my eyes. Any one of you who are joining us and want to close the eyes, you can do it. But if you prefer to remain with your eyes open, it's also possible. Just choose a very comfortable position and we can take a long exhalation. And we are going to observe that in the center of our heart, there is a flower blooming. This is the most beautiful flower that we had ever seen before. It's a very soft flower. And the smell is very refreshing. Take your time to see this flower. Take your time to feel this flower. And you can breathe in deeply to your heart, to the flower in your heart. Keep and exhale, expanding all the beauty of this flower to every cell of your body. And feel that this flower is like medicine. That heals and restores any difficulty or pain. And you can feel that every cell, every organ inside of you is blooming, as beautiful as this flower. This is a time for yourself. And always keep this flower in your heart and water this flower by thinking about it. And you can come back to feel your fingers. You can stretch your body a little bit. And if you had your eyes closed, slowly you can open your eyes. And you can rediscover the place around you. And after this short meditation that you can use in your daily life, as many seconds as you can, we can open a short space for questions. If any one of you wants to share in the chat, we will be so happy to learn about you. There is a person that says thank you for this time and sends a sunflower in the chat. A beautiful flower.
And so, Juliana, thank you for that beautiful meditation. But what I also want to tell people is that right now is a critical time and for women in helping each other heal. So make sure that you're calling your friends or Zooming your friends, FaceTiming your friends. Stay connected because everybody's dealing with this crisis a little bit different. So just make sure that you're checking in on all the women around you and support them in their healing.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, and it's very, very true. And as part, there is a Beverly here tells us, thank you, sister, and sends an emoji of a heart. Thank you, Beverly, to you as well for being here with us today and for creating this community. Maybe we are living in a different time zones and our friends are sleeping at this moment and we cannot call them, but we are creating this space to make sure that we are not alone. Cynthia has a very beautiful background in the Cherokee tradition, and I would love as well to ask to Cynthia to create a blessing, a prayer, or whatever you want to close this live today.
Yes, thank you for that. So let us turn within and I ask the Creator to bless each and every person that is touched by this video. I ask the Creator to bless Juliana. I ask the Creator to bless the entire world. I ask the Creator to take care of the souls that have made their transition through this virus. Last count was over 111,000 people worldwide. Keep their souls pure. I ask that you bring creative healing energy to this planet because we are one planet. We are all connected. And with that, we know that when we rise, we all rise. We know that we entrust that we will get through this. And with that, I say amen and aho. Thank you.
Amen. Aho. Tashi deleg, as we will say in Tibetan language. Namaste. Gracias. And gracias, and thank you so much to each of the people who are joining us here, either at this moment or in the replay. We will meet together in the next episode. Thank you so much, Cynthia, again, and see you next time, all of you.